Over the last 60 years, ITV has recorded life in an ever-changing Britain.
What were you doing 25 years ago on D-Day?
I was in my mother's womb, as you'd imagine.
In this series, we're celebrating an extraordinary archive of real-life TV footage from across the country.
The quickest way, you'll get the soot out of the chimney.
Clips that show just how much our lives have moved on, from how we get about to a good old-fashioned night out.
How often do you play bingo?
Well, I come here 5 nights a week.
So strap yourselves in and prepare for a bumpy ride.
Nothing you're about to see makes any sense at all. There, you've been warned.
This was Britain as seen on ITV. Tonight, it's Ladies' Night. As we dip into 6 decades of ITV archive and reveal the changing face of the modern woman. And not just our faces, mind you. We'll look at the clothes that we wore.
What do you think of the new hot pants?
Well, I think they look very nice on you, but I can't see me wearing them somehow.
What we did in our spare time.
Have you been watching the progress of the World Cup?
No,
Why not?
I'm just not interested.
And even how we parked our cars.
I used to work in an office block that overlooked a car park, and you could tell the women parked.
Steady on, sir. You might think that man was brave, or possibly foolish, to express such an opinion on TV. But ITV's archive shows that women have been equally happy to sound off about men. Take this Granada TV documentary from 1962 that set out to explain how women of the day felt about the not-so-modern man.
I think they're all right as long as they get all their own way. They're just happy to come home from work, sit down, and forget about everything. Well, I think when women have any serious illness, they get through their illness far quicker than possibly a man would.
The thing that does annoy me is when they spit, particularly when the wind's in the wrong direction.
But not all women were so critical of the opposite sex. In Britain today, the average age for a woman to get married is 28. But in the early 60s, it was just 21. Seems many girls simply couldn't wait to get hitched.
What do you want most in all the world?
To get married. Same.
Do you think you'll get married?
Well, what they say about marriage, boy, I do. But I don't fancy the washing up.
Sadly, there was plenty of washing up and other domestic duties for women in the 60s. Even by the end of the decade, 2/3 of married women were happy to be stay-at-home housewives and mothers. But for some, this simply wasn't enough. And in 1967, ITV showed a telling documentary that chronicled the changing face of the British workforce.
This is Ostler College, Huddersfield. Here, 24 Yorkshire housewives aged between 27 and 50 are doing what millions of other women only talk about. They're resolved to be individuals as well as mothers and wives.
Peggy South is 33. She has 2 girls aged 4 and 7. For her, starting late on a new career has meant changing the whole pattern of life.
Well, I wanted to teach. I suppose it's as simple as that. But we had a little family conference and we all decided that it would be a good idea, and we decided to go into it.
Well, really, I felt that apart from bringing the children up, I just wasn't living. And I would sort of change the furniture around, just for a change. You can read books, which I have done quite a lot, which sort of passes the time, but there's no end product to it.
The course at Ostler has been carefully planned by Principal George Wilson to dovetail with the home timetable.
Lectures start at just before 11 in the morning and end just after 3. Monday is a free day. The free wash day and late morning start will make it possible for housewives to help plug Britain's teacher gap.
But not everyone shared the enthusiasm for these back-to-work mums, including some of the full-time trainee teachers filmed by the documentary team.
I don't think you can say that because they're mothers, because they've had children of their own, I don't think you can say they're qualified to teach.
4 years, 1,000 evenings of writing up the day's lectures at home on the kitchen table. Will they stick it?
I don't think my conscience would allow me to back down now. You know, having taken a precious place, I mean, so many other women wanted to do it, and having been allocated one of these places, I would feel that I was letting everyone down.
By the late 1960s, the women's liberation movement was in full swing.
Excuse me.
Just a few years earlier, it would have been unthinkable that a female TV news reporter would go out onto the streets and quiz men about sexual attraction.
Why do you think you're so attractive?
Do you think so?
Yes.
You think I'm attractive?
Yes. I've been watching you come along the streets, and I find you very attractive.
That's very kind of you.
What is it about you that makes women so
God.
attractive to you?
Oh, that's a nice question to ask. I have no idea. Perhaps my manly looks and...
Your manly looks,
Smashing
yeah.
glasses and all that
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything about me that women find particularly attractive.
Well, I do. I think you've got very beautiful eyes. Very nice
we ought
colour.
to do something about it then, didn't we, really?
Are you rated pretty well with the birds?
I don't do so bad. What about yourself?
The birds don't rate me.
The fellas do, though. Otherwise you wouldn't stop me.
No, I've just stopped you because I think you're very attractive.
Well, when we're going out then.
Go on.
What a charmer. I know one place he won't be taking her on the first date, though. Back in 1959, there were plenty of pubs and bars with a strict men-only policy.
Come in.
Which is why one establishment in Worcester caught the attention of ITV News with its controversial bar just for women.
Man and the ladies only bar already. How come?
Well, I'm the gaffer. I'm allowed in here. I'm the only man that is allowed in here.
Well, you're just the chap I want to see. What's the idea of running a bar for ladies only?
Well, we have 5 bars already, all of which cater to the man by virtue of the fact that we have some rather beautiful girls behind the bar, and we feel that the only way to really do business is to have all the ladies really wanting their menfolk to come here.
Well, as you have glamorous girls to look after the men, do you have a really interesting male to look after the women?
Yes, we do indeed. We have Brian here, our new bartender.
Oh, wonderful. Do you think I could have a word with him?
I think you might. He might even buy you a glass of champagne.
Wonderful. Well, what does it feel like to be the glamour boy of the ladies-only bar?
Oh, well, I'm rather flattered, actually. I think it's wonderful.
Do you particularly like women's company?
Yes, I do, because well, I feel more at home with a woman. I feel that I can chat to them. They have a lot more to say than a man.
I believe you had to have some special qualifications for this job. You had to be pretty masculine and have lots of sex appeal, is that right?
Well, I don't know about that, but appearances are well essential, I should imagine, and being able to talk to people, which I like anyway.
We'll let them carry on getting to know each other, shall we? While we recall how the 50s was also the decade where beauty contests first came into their own in Britain. Created in the UK in 1951, Miss World was big news at home and abroad, and the cameras were always on hand to document which of these beauties would walk away with the crown. Indeed, Miss World was so popular with the viewers that by the 1970s, many of the ITV regions were holding beauty contests of their own.
A touch of beauty to brighten a dull afternoon here in Harrogate.
The man in charge of this Yorkshire TV competition from 1974 was Fred Dinage.
Well, Diane is 20 and works in a television showroom, but today, for a change, she is on the telly. Now, your ambition is to travel to America. Any particular part of America you want to visit?
I'd love to go to Disneyland.
Yeah? All right. Thank you very much indeed, Diane Bolt. And now this is contestant number 3, Angie Graham from Otley. This lady's ambitions are to be healthy, happy and wise, and also to own a cow.
We'll never know if Angie did get to own a cow.
And a 37.
But was she Crown Queen of Yorkshire?
The winner of the Miss Yorkshire Television Contest for 1974 is contestant number 12, Pam Wood from Rotherham.
No, she wasn't. Never mind, Angie. There's always next year. Of course, not all women wanted to be beauty queens. Grampian TV picked up on a trend of the modern female wanting to take day-to-day life into her own hands. Hence this very educational series about household tasks.
One of the first tricks of the trade is to get the right tools around you. You can't cope with even the simplest job if you have to depend on a tack hammer, a pen knife and maybe a nail file. And it's worth spending money on good quality tools. They really do make the job simpler, quicker and safer. Now this is our basic kit. You probably won't have a toolbox, perhaps a shoebox or any old cardboard box will do, provided you keep everything together. Maybe that your husband has a big toolbox with all the new elaborate tools and you don't get to use them. So in that case, make up your own selection.
And she wasn't the only sister in the ITV archives who wanted to do things for herself. This 1970s news report from Sutton Coldfield may look to be about ladies that lunch, but these two were enjoying the good life in a way that most viewers wouldn't have expected. With strike action bringing Britain to a halt in the early 70s, there was an increased interest in allotments and self-sufficiency, though it was usually the man of the house that would be expected to plough the fields and scatter.
The reaction when we first started was mixed. Once my husband had got used to the idea, he used to bring it out at dinner parties where he thought he might shock people and wait for the reaction. We did go out with some business people in the past, and the reaction of one of them was, "Oh, how frightfully nice." The reaction of the other one was, "What a bloody good idea, I'll get one for my wife." And so it has been very mixed.
So what are you growing, in fact?
We don't grow a lot of potatoes because we're always on a diet, and also they're very cheap to buy, so we tend to specialise in the things like dwarf beans or broccoli, onions and leeks, things like this.
So it's something, then, that the average housewife could do?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we've
As
no
long as
special
they
knowledge.
don't mind hard work, because it isn't easy.
But these were 1970s women enjoying a traditionally male pursuit. So it was only a matter of time before the conversation was steered back to something more befitting of a lady.
You're both smart dressers, you're both fashion conscious. What does one wear on an allotment?
Anything.
It's very
It
cold.
must be windproof and rainproof, and we just wear anything. Wellies, which we keep
Scarves.
in the car. Or...
Something to keep you warm,
yes.
basically.
Yes.
We are going to take a break now to plant some parsnips. But don't go far, because tonight's show's still got plenty of legs.
Are you going to be wearing a miniskirt this winter?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
We'll see a lesson in styling that's a cut above the rest.
I think that suits you better than that awful long style you've been having, don't you?
Yeah.
And we'll recall how Britain fell in love with the health spa. Now that has got to hurt. Welcome back to Britain as seen on ITV, where we're plundering 6 decades of extraordinary archive. Tonight is all about the girls, so let's see how feminine fashion has been portrayed on our TV screens down the decades. In the swinging 60s, London was the world's capital of couture. But trends like the miniskirt were also making their mark in the Midlands.
Paris has said the skirts are going to get longer.
Oh, well, Paris doesn't dictate to us, does it? We're in London, aren't we?
Well, we're Birmingham, actually, but don't you think that it's going to be a bit cold this winter with the skirts?
Oh, we thought it was
short
cold last winter, but I should brave it out.
The thing is, people are not discerning enough. If they've got fat legs, they shouldn't wear them. If they've got nice thin legs, why not? Yeah. I wish I had the right sort of legs to wear one myself.
Thank you very much. Are you going to be wearing a miniskirt this winter?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
Aren't they a bit short, don't you think?
No, they're all right. They're all right for the men, ain't they?
Isn't it a bit cold, though, in the winter?
Well, you keep plenty of woolies on the night to keep you warm.
Thank you very much.
Still in the 60s, and even further north, you might have been forgiven for thinking the height of haute couture was a new hairnet. But this Granada TV report was keen to show that there was one man determined that northern girls would keep up with their southern counterparts.
Let's face it, some people think the north is all dirt and mill chimneys and back-to-backs. Well, we're trying to change that in our own way. That's one reason why we painted the shop up. For some reason, everybody thinks that, you know, a dirty old town kind of thing, they should have dirty old people living in it, you know, and it's not true.
Oh, wow. It's rather exotic, isn't it, Pat?
Yeah, at first we were thinking about going to London and owning one, or even Manchester, and then we thought, well, why not Oldham, you know, the place where we live.
It's great, isn't it, that? Eh?
I like
Fantastic.
But for those young uns in Oldham that couldn't afford boutique prices, there was always Nana.
Well, when my granddaughter came to me and asked me to cross her dress, I was very pleased. And I started to do it. And when she told me the length, I thought, my God, she's going to get in trouble with this.
Just 3 years later, and into a different decade, miniskirts were on their way out and hot pants were all the rage. But in Newcastle, one Time Tees reporter was questioning if they were strictly just for the ladies.
You know, I always thought hot pants were for both sexes. But it occurred to me, although I'd seen plenty of girls wearing them, I haven't seen any fellas in them. There's a picture in the paper of a London disc jockey who went to an official function in some the other day. But I haven't seen any North East men in them. Why not? Haven't our fellas got any fashion sense? I think I'll go and ask some of them for myself. Excuse me, sir, can I just ask you why you're not wearing hot pants?
It's legs like mine, are you kidding? Hey?
Do you like them?
Well, on women, yeah.
Excuse me, do you think women have got more guts than fellas?
No.
Well, why is it that the women are prepared to wear these hot pants and the men won't?
Women haven't got hairs on their legs.
Excuse me, I see you're not wearing hot pants.
No, not this weather.
Not this weather. Would you wear them?
No, not with legs like I've got.
You see, when the fashion came in, it was for fellas as well as girls. And there's a picture in the paper of a bloke wearing some. What do you think of that?
Well, his legs look a bit better than mine would.
Well, they're okay on pretty girls with nice legs, but they don't even look good on girls with fat legs or big backsides.
But men wear shorts. It's summer on the beach.
Uh-huh. Well, perhaps for the beach they're fine, but myself, I can't see it, you know, it's not for me.
I think we can all agree that it might be best to leave that particular fashion trend to the ladies. In fact, some of the women that would be seen sporting hot pants in the 1970s were probably featured in this ITV report from the previous decade, showing teenage girls the importance of personal presentation.
Well, here at the Abram Derby School, we're anxious to turn out not only well-educated, but also attractive and well-groomed young ladies.
Very well then, Carol. How's that?
Yes, I think I'm going to like it.
I think that suits you better than that awful long style you've been having, don't you?
Yeah.
Looks like boys weren't the only ones who longed for a Beatles mop top.
I feel that in recent years the pop idols have been a bad influence in as much as they've worn their hair long and really it's been very untidy. The emphasis now in the fashion world is on the shorter styles, and this is what we are trying to emphasise here.
Jean, you've got small features, and a well-shaped head. Shall we experiment?
If you will, please.
Don't you think that this tends to make girls think too much of themselves, in fact, to make them conceited?
Well, no, not really. What distresses me considerably is to see what were attractive teenagers grow into untidy wives and mothers. And I think if we can show them in school how to look attractive at all times and for all occasions, this is indeed a very important thing.
Give us a wink then. Nice. 20 years later, and another generation of females were filmed being primped and pampered, this time by Granada TV. The 1980s saw a boom in the popularity of health spas.
Come in.
Giving wealthy clients the chance to get in shape, or just take it easy.
Mrs. Fox, is that
Yes.
right? Am I pronouncing it properly?
Yes. On check-in, a state-registered dietitian would be on hand to ask all those vital medical questions.
What paper would you like sent up on the breakfast tray?
I'll be quite honest, I like a lowbrow one, so star, sun, mirror.
The senior beauty therapist, Louise, does the workout, translating from the Jane Fonda Aerobics Handbook. This they'll do every other day. Only just once in the week's course, the clients will get the mud pack. This is very popular because it's supposed to make you beautiful, fresh and clean.
I'd like us to come down onto
The clientele is almost always female.
I'd like you to bring the soles of your feet together now and then rock from side to side.
Some of the treatments on offer seemed a little bizarre.
Does it help aches and pains and nubbles and cobbles?
Well, it'll help stiff joints. It'll make them more supple.
And others just downright brutal.
In the evening, there are classes. The sessions will vary from makeup, hair, and this from the dietitian.
Right. So when I start eating my sausage, you start eating your nuts, you start eating your apple, and you start eating your Mars bar, and we'll see how many of the 100 calories we get through. Ready, steady, go.
After a good night's rest in the peaceful countryside, not only may the clients read the daily paper of their choice, but early risers can switch on breakfast TV.
Come in.
Or the sleepyheads can lie in bed and wait for the maid to bring them the first calories of the day.
A week's stay at this health spa in 1986 would have cost you £250. But for that, you did get bed, breakfast, and all the bubbles you could drink. I do hope she's okay in there. Next time on Britain, as seen on ITV, we look at the things that our nation is known for the world over. From the Bobby on the Beat to the very British things we eat.
Sunday is not a Sunday without the joint.
And I'm guessing we'll just have to talk about the weather.
Carol Vorderman is your host to Thursday at 8 in the Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Awards 2015. Next, it's Coronation Street as Yasmin wants revenge as Tracy walks free. And it's time for couples counselling for our GP and Louisa as New Duck Martin continues. That's in half an hour.